You're listening to your brain on air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Ακούτε τον εγκέφαλό σας στον αέρα, το πρόγραμμα θα ξεκινήσει σύντομα, απολαύστε.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I am your host, Ollie Vogt Larson. And how did Anne Frank write her memoirs in child and adult cursive? How did she summon a ballpoint pen into her ghetto when they were not commercially available in Germany until 1951? Why are there edits and notes on many of the pages as though someone is outlining a story? Why do experts in 1980s Germany confirm that the adult cursive parts were added later? Why was her father, Otto Frank, sued by author Meyer Levin, saying that he helped her father invent the story's key parts? No one is saying that they made up the Holocaust here, but we're clearly dealing with something that's about as historically accurate as like Amityville Horror in some parts. Like, oh, was the Defoe family murdered in their house? Yeah. Were there any ghosts? Was the father getting up in the middle of the night to like a marching band downstairs? No, probably not. If this is such a tragic tale, why did her father pay out thousands to have it turned into a play? Why did the New York Times ads call it fiction even then? This is bizarre. But I don't want to think about that. I don't think you want to think about that. I don't think either of us really want to talk about World War II right now. I want to talk about Peter Nygard. I want to talk about the elites. I want to talk about people having tissue farms. I want to talk about court filings claiming that, yes, he manipulated women and pursued disturbing anti-aging experiments involving fetal tissue and stem cells. I actually wanted to debut that at the beginning of the episode just to see how many of the audience we would lose, because there's a few of the audience members, not you, because you stuck around, but there are a lot of audience members, they hear one fact about fetal tissue being used and they instantly assume that you are this fucking QAnon weirdo who like, oh, you're going too deep down the rabbit hole, buddy. Well, online leaks and verified documents have also connected Epstein to similar claims of these types of tissue farms. He was deeply into the cloning aspects, especially at the Zorro Ranch. People were like, oh, is that dentist chair? It's just for removing the kids' teeth so that when they're doing sexual stuff, they won't bite. That's not the only purpose. They were doing this. They were doing infusions. They were doing IVF in order to impregnate people, to create clones. He was heavily involved in that because he wanted genomes to basically breed out humans where he could harvest their tissue. He could grab their stem cells. He could use these as anti-aging technology. And listen, the ultra-wealthy elite circles, they are still able to do this, and people do this regularly. We have normalized fetal tissue in all of our things. We just don't even realize this. The cosmetics industry is heavy on this. Okay. Let's start from the get-go. If you're not aware of Peter Nygard, he had a company called Nygard International. It produced a lot of clothing across multiple women's apparel brands, Nygard Slims, Peter Nygard Collections, Bianca Nygard, Aaliyah, Tan J, all that sort of shit. ADX, Allison Daly, big garment labels, honestly, in the women's fashion industry. If you've bought a pair of pants between the years of 1990 and 2000 and you're a woman, there's a chance that you've bought one of his products inadvertently. Legal documents unsealed in his ongoing criminal and civil cases reveal a disturbing pattern of systematic abuse. Nygard allegedly used his global clothing empire to systematically manipulate, drug, and sex traffic dozens of women and underage girls. However, beyond all of these sorts of claims, people want to start on, they're like, damn, the elites are sleeping with children? That is like, you have just begun. You have not, people are like, I discovered that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile, and now I know everything. And now I know that the elites are bad, but it's not all of them. It's only the ones that are like Bruce Wayne types who like have islands and stuff. And it's not everybody that I think of that when I see the Super Bowl halftime show. It's not these like artists and creative types. It's not. I know everything that there is to know. However, you ask any of these people about whether or not they are eating the children. You ask any of these people whether or not the blood ceremonies, the parties where people get in vats of the children blood, you ask them to go a step further into a little bit of human depravity, and suddenly they shut off. They shut off like robots because they're trained to. You are trained as a human being, unfortunately in the world today, to the moment when someone says they are ritualistically abusing children for anti-aging properties, you have been trained by your like, to, I listen to the science. I listen to Fauci. Even though I don't read what the label says on vaccines, I can literally see that it says fetal human tissue on the labels for these things. It's not that hard. They train you to not question these practices. They train you to just go to the doctor. They train you to see the guy who's in the coat, and he will tell you what it is. You don't have to think for yourself. According to court affidavits, corporate whistleblowers, Nygård poured vast fortunes into unregulated stem cell research and anti-aging therapies across Panama, China, and the Bahamas. He openly boasted about seeking immortality, claiming to have to receive embryonic stem cell injections 4 times a year, and even allegedly he had his own cells growing in petri dishes. And listen, this is foot in the door territory. So everyone in the government wants you to think that it stops at raping 12 and 11-year-olds. No, this is the beginning. Like I said, guys, tissue harvesting, cloning, via genome editing to impregnate women with biological life forms. That's essentially more than half you so that you can harvest organs from it. And if you don't feel like having this creature live in a tank for 18 years, just abort it. Aborted fetal tissue is selling on the black market because of stem cell therapies. It's remarkable for the anti-aging process. And these men, they kidnap mostly Central African women and also others and whatnot, but Central African women, their stem cells are like 10 to 100 times better for stem cell therapy. You can look it up yourself. They abort the fetus as its formulation, development, and whatnot is almost done. They break down the baby. They inject it into these old men and women. They apply it externally via creams. Sometimes it's like the blood ceremonies like Mary the First of England, where it's like you bathe in the bathtub and it seeps into their skin. It acts as de-aging for these people. If you think I'm nuts, why are cosmetic companies using fetal tissue foreskin, admittedly, in women's face care products? If you doubt any of this, by the way, shut up. You're the crazy one. I'm not crazy. I'm just more informed than you. And I know it's troublesome for many minds, the idea that a brain that's only about 20 years on this earth is more on the vein of truth than you are. Someone who might have been here, 30 to 90 years. I get it. You just didn't bother to learn anything in that time that you've been here. You listened to the music that the people put out on the radio. I looked at it and I was like, what are the people making the music into? That's why you talk to any of these people about how Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, all CIA plants. You can look it up yourself. These people have never read Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon by David McGowan. It perfectly lays out how these figureheads with wigs and guitars, they're here to placate you, turn you bisexual, get you into casual sex, drugs, freedom only as far as it means you smoke cigarettes and you don't question the government too much. Or if you do, it's only limited to the response of Republicans. Ew, Democrats, and we need to be peaceful and let in immigrants to dilute the native population, man. Because in the end, we're all just humans, man. It's tough. When you see someone who's like boomer, Gen X, millennial, even some Gen Z, they still buy into the lie. The grand lie that anyone in the government cares about you to any extent. They want to see you and your children do nothing more than obey. Folks, if you have done yourself the disservice of thinking that Epstein was only into sex and the occasional throat slit, enlighten yourself, please, to the reality of the world. And you're doing yourself the disservice. And I know, I've talked to so many and they just go, ugh, I don't think it's good to immerse yourself in research. I just don't. Make sure you don't get too deep in that because you might start talking crazy and all out of the normal right-left political lines that we're normally used to discussing. You might start talking about crazy stuff like controlling the weather, human-animal hybrids, elite baby tissue farms, fetal extracts in your vaccines, pig DNA in every flu shot you've ever gotten. Guys, quit judging me for being informed if you don't like the reality of the world you call home. I realize why people don't like chatting me up. They don't love talking to me. It's because they hate seeing the truth of the world for what it is, which sucks because I think you're all just being babies about it. And not all of you, the people who've made it this far in the recording, they obviously are enlightened a little to the world, but we can't be babies about it. Being babies allows the other adults to keep their sex farms, impregnating slaves, to eat the baby 9 months later so that their smile lines don't show up for another 5 years. While we ignore the cities underground, the hospitals run by Satanists, the Gnostic pagans like Bill Gates who are trying to influence our world for profit, the longer we continue to eat the meat that has human in it, the worse it's going to get for us. Stop buying Tyson, by the way. Tyson meat products, they're responsible for like 1 in every 5 pounds of meat that Americans eat a year. Quit getting all of that shit. They've been proven to find, they found a human body in one of their shipping trucks one time. It has human in it. It's Soylent Green is human. Tyson meat is human meat. They have it in it's in there. It's been genetically tested. KFC gets it from it. McDonald's, all of the major food brands, they are sourcing their meat from places that have been proven to have intermingled human DNA into their meats. And if you do not like that truth, if you don't like that reality of the world, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you have to open your eyes one day. You have to admit to yourself that there are people out there. By the way, I'm going to play this clip from CBC, excuse me. They are only going to say he was a Jurassic pedophile who abused young women. They will never tell you the truth about the anti-aging. They will never tell you the truth about the human tissue farms, the women that he raped, assaulted in order to steal their baby and kill it and inject it into himself. This is real. This is real stuff. The elites will do this to you and your child. It's more likely that they're going to do it to their own child because it's going to be a version of themselves. They want to use their own DNA, but here's what they're going to do. They're going to kidnap your daughter because she's a breeding vessel to these elite billionaires. Once she starts to bleed, they use the Quran. They use like old Middle Eastern techniques where it's like once she's bled, she's ready. So these people begin the stem cell therapies early. And listen, they've only sentenced him, by the way, to 11 years in prison. He'll be out before you know it. He's taken so much of the adrenochrome. He's taken enough of the anti-aging stuff to where he is not anti-Asian, anti-aging. He's taken enough of the anti-aging stuff to where he will be able to live out this sentence. And by the way, you see this first photo of him in prison. When these people get off the baby juice, they start to decay like the bodies they are. They start to, unfortunately, I think he's going to have to like arrange for them to come in and give him the baby cells because otherwise, I don't know if he'll be able to last out the entirety of the time that he's going to have to serve. Let's listen to this clip from the mainstream media. They're not going to mention anything like I just told you.
Justice Robert Goldstein called disgraced fashion mogul Peter Nygard a sexual predator.
Oh, of course, it's a Goldstein, and of course, the sexual predator that's such a danger to society only gets 11 years.
Used his position of power and wealth to take advantage of women, calling it a Canadian success story gone very wrong.
Justice Goldstein sentenced Mr. Nygard accordingly.
Really?
And found him to have committed these sexual assaults in a way that makes him, as we have been saying, recognizes the description of him as a sexual.
What about the killing babies? What about the stem cell therapy? What about any of that?
In the sentencing, the judge called Nygard a narcissist who felt entitled to do whatever he wanted. Nygard was convicted of sexually assaulting 4 women in the private bedroom.
This is the people, by the way, this is the same mainstream media that'll go, Jeffrey Epstein was an individualized child predator. He never had anything to do with Chelsea Handler. He had nothing to do with the people who run the industry. Not that Chelsea Handler's running the industry of business tech. I know she's big in comedy or something like that. But like, you know what I mean? He's having dinner with George Stephanopoulos. But they didn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like, what's his name? Lawrence M. Krauss, the one guy. He's a Canadian-American theoretical physicist. He's big in the world. He's 72 years old. And he is mentioned in the Epstyles repeatedly. He had a sexual assault case go up against him. And back in 2019, he was emailing Epstein, asking him for advice. He was like, yeah, this one girl that we have on the jury, she's not one of these young Me Too bitches. She's some old lady who might be understanding of the fact that maybe you grab a girl wrong every now and again. That just happens. You know what I mean? You're in these elite circles. You just grab women sometimes, and then whether or not they want to sue you is up to them. But okay. Let's take a look at this.
Toronto fashion headquarters between the 1980s and mid-2000s. One was just 16. Victims advocate Shannon Maroney read a statement from one of the women.
We did this to ensure every victim of sexual assault will remember this trial and feel the strength and confidence to come forward and not be threatened by social status or money.
Nothing about the genetic hybrids, nothing about his anti-aging therapy, nothing. The mainstream media wants you to know nothing about his actual crimes.
Women from around the world have alleged they were assaulted by Nygard. He faces charges in Manitoba, Quebec, and the United States. Some of those alleged victims were here in court for the sentencing.
Many of us have waited for this day for quite a few years. For me, I'm a 21-year survivor. I've been waiting for this day for 21 years.
The 83-year-old wore a black Canada Goose parka with a hood over his bearded face shielded by a visor. He declined to address the court. The judge mostly rejected calls for leniency based on Nygard's age and failing health. Nygard's lawyer promises to...
Failing health, he hasn't had a baby injection lately. He has not had an infusion of fetal tissue, and unfortunately, I hate that I sound this way. I hate that I sound this way when I'm just telling the truth. I know that it sounds crazy. I know that the vocabulary objectively coming out of my lips is shocking to many people. It's unfortunate that they want to sexually assault your daughter in order to make their baby half of an elitist. They want to steal her away, put her on some human tissue farm, and then she will be just this baby maker. And that'll just be, by the way, the most she'll ever be called is like a survivor. She's lucky if she lives, because guess what? You know who these women are that are talking right now at the press conference? It's the women that he like groped the pussy a little bit. It was not these people where it's like, oh, I was at the farm. He impregnated me 70 times, because those women are dead, by the way. Those women were killed, taken out back, shot, buried, and whatnot. They're gone. There's no chance that you're ever going to hear from them. The media wants you to hear from he had me in his office one time and he touched my titty.
Appeal the conviction and the sentence.
So he's just going to continue to defend himself where he can, appeal where he can, and continue to maintain his innocence in all of these matters.
It's innocent.
This marks the end of a stunning fall. Once a rich and powerful player in the fashion world, now likely to spend his final years in prison. Jamie Strachan, CBC News.
CBC News, Toronto, you're bullshitting me. Don't bullshit me. All I want is honesty. All I want is truth. But people will never be honest or true with you. They will always call you a fucking nut. They will always call you crazy if you just bring them facts, science. And they claim to be people of science and facts. They claim to be people of open minds. They claim to be really intellectualized. But then when you get to the heart of a lot of people's quarrels with truth, when you're like, why do you hate the fact that I'm telling you the truth about how elitists want to kill babies in order to inject them into their systems and get back their youth and vigor? They go, well, I just don't like thinking about it. Ultimately, it boils down to, I just don't like to think about it. My mind doesn't like to go to those. I want to hope that the world is better than it is. You got to give up. You got to stop with this like pretend bullshit fantasy. You got to stop pretending that the Freemasons are not a real order, the Knights of Malta. You have to be honest with the world. By the way, you got to open a fucking book like once. You have to invest yourself in research even a little bit. These people who demonize research, the idea of doing your research, the idea of poring over the text, the idea of going through things that we know to be true, I don't understand it. I understand that it's a massive psyop. It's the thing that South Park wanted to program into everybody. Back when they did the QAnon special, the vaccine special, they tried to demonize people who question the system even a little bit. They want you to fall into one very, very small sect of people. People who will take any order from Fauci and also defend his name and honor from any person who questions it. They want a very particular person. If you disagree with them because you don't think that Fauci, if you want to kill Fauci, and if you just think that he's not a good person who has your best interest in mind, you're lumped in the same audience. You're like, oh, you're just anti the science. You just hate doctors. You just want everybody to die. It's like you hear these people, they get demonic. They have a spirit in them that is loyal to a religion they didn't even know they were loyal to. They don't have God in their lives, most of these people. They're not Christian, they're not Muslim, because keep in mind, these are more often than not the people with the grounding force of God. They were the people who called out the vaccines. They were the people who called out the mass programs for this shit. I mean, granted, if they were Catholic, they probably didn't. They're pretty good at taking orders in general, the Jesuits. But my all honest opinion on this is that people who are willing to shoot you down for doing your own research, people who are willing to say, stop that. You need to stop. Are you questioning the Artemis launch? You think that NASA isn't a perfectly trustworthy industry that is interested in the progression of mankind? You're an evil piece of shit. Don't even bother with these people. These people are the same exact folks that will tell you you're nuts for, I judge Christians. Because what kind of a kooky person could think that someone could rise from the dead after 3 days? That's ridiculous. But the idea that we're creating a genome, a vaccine for a virus that has been proven to evolve at the rate that it does, to the point where you develop a vaccine, it won't be effective within the next year. Purely, it's all for psychological control. Same thing with the masks. You can look at the Senate committee report that was 600 pages. It got dropped early, like a couple years back. You can look at it yourself. the COVID episode, as we can call it, was the biggest example of human programming that we have seen in years. It's the biggest one that we've had. People were running around willing to listen to any individual. They were, and guess what? The purveying the savior this time around was the scientists. They were like, well, fuck, we don't have God to turn to. It's not the Spanish flu. We can't just go and pray, you know what I mean, that these sores go away. Let's go sit in front of our TVs and take edicts from Bill Gates. Let's take edicts from Anthony Fauci. Let's formulate our entire lives around the basis of like, oh, this is the first time we've had to deal with one of these types of crises. Trust us 100%. Listen to everything that we tell you. Otherwise, you're a bad person. That's the weird thing about COVID. It became like you are a bad person if you disagree with the ideas that, behind it. You want grandma to die. You want grandma to die if you're not willing to comply with all of the orders. That's how they do it. And I know that people are going to go, you sound like one of the nuts back in COVID. You're in on it. You are in on the massive programming. You're in on the lie. You don't even realize it yet. You didn't even know about Peter Nygård. So shut the fuck up thinking that you know half as much as I do. Half. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. If you are not able to come at me with facts, if you're not able to come at me with like names, dates, who are the Adelsons, I don't want to hear your conversations or opinions on anything. I don't want to. I don't want to hear it. It's not an informed one. It's not going to be a useful one to any conversation anyone could ever have. All right. I'm going to give it a rest because the people who know. And the people, by the way, it's likely you. If you've stayed around this long and you've been able to deal with it, you're probably sitting there going, fuck, man, I know. This world is nuts. And at least like there's someone out there that's telling it like it is. You know what I mean? Come back to the show. That's all we managed to do here, ladies and gentlemen. All right, folks, I think we should probably take a break for an ad. We do have a sponsor. I know that normally never happens for us around these times of years, but I think that it's honestly important that we get this message forward because it's going to affect Americans pretty much equally across the board. Because are you tired of American money going to American causes, American needs? Do you crave the fusion of the Pentagon's war capabilities with, I don't know, some randos in the Levant with a death wish for everyone to issue in the war of Gog and Magog? Well, good news for you. Because we have got just the fiscal plan for you in the draft for the fiscal year of 2027, the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, Section 224. It is a proposed provision titled the United States-Israeli Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative. It aims to deeply fuse the United States and Israeli defense industrial sectors, basically across all emerging technologies, essentially linking our defense industries so deeply that we'll never have the chance to ditch our crusty, dusty old neighbors to the east. So what does the bill section outline, actually? The American United States-Israeli Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative will force our military leaders, generals, and representatives to give Israel our top-tier advanced military secrets, cyber tech, artificial intelligence, biotech, etc. It also says the two militaries would share data fusion and network integration. Tax dollars you pay will funnel down into a singular unified war chest the two can pull from whenever they'd like. Israel is also being allowed to build factories in the United States and our territories so that members of Congress, in the event of them voting to cut off Israel, would be killing off jobs, likely in our own regions. The United States Department's members, the State Department's members, are themselves warning that this would intermingle our economies so deeply, we'd lose the ability to say no to them. So, I just want to tell you right now, hop on the trend right away. Before that before Am wakes up, before Rocco's basilisk catches you in its line of sight and it's too late, it knows that you didn't want the AI god to exist and it detected all of your tweets in the past. Now you're going to be subject to torture and damnation forever. Hop on this trend right away because the reason Trump signed on it's because he's set to make bank. You probably won't, and he's funded also by the Adelsons. Let's be honest, Republican or Democrat, under any president, this bill would have likely been passed. We can't stop them now. So do not wait. Call your representatives ASAP to let them know your feelings on this bill and vote yes to the grand rapist that is the motherland of Israel. All right. And then also call 1-877-CARS for Jews for any direct donations. Ladies and gentlemen, let's cover one of the biggest unfolding things that we've got right now from the Goyslop chain. The Goyslop chain wants you to be real nervous about Ebola. Listen. I think global health authorities, they're on high alert after Brazilian medical officers officially isolated two patients displaying severe Ebola-like symptoms in Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. The parallel investigations have sparked an intense international concern that the catastrophic outbreak currently tearing its way through Central Africa may have breached to South America. The first suspected patient is a 37-year-old man from the Democratic Republic of the Congo who checked into Sao Paulo hospital with severe fever, while the second patient is a traveler from Uganda who was quarantined in Rio after exhibiting classic viral symptoms including chills and diarrhea. While both men have since tested positive for alternative tropical infectious diseases, the patient in Sao Paulo with a severe form of meningitis and the patient in Rio with malaria, the health experts are warning that these diagnoses do not fully rule out the co-infection of Ebola. Okay, so they want you to think that it is finally breached onto American shores when what they do have confirmed is meningitis and malaria. Very, very common diseases. Unfortunately, this is horrific. They still kill people. I hate it. I hate when anybody gets sick. It's terrible. But in Sao Paulo, the Congolese patient's condition is rapidly deteriorated, requiring him to be intubated in serious condition at Emilio Rabas Institute of Infectious Disease. Brazil's Ministry of Health has activated strict biosecurity protocols, keeping both men under rigid quarantine while waiting for definitive geometric testing to absolutely confirm whether or not the virus is present. South America does have a bit of a scare coming up its belt. I'm going to be honest with you, because the Belt and Road Initiative, it's not something that the Chinese are just looking at right now, where they want to build this massive railroad system interlinking the Eurasian plateau, essentially. They want to intermingle the European, African, every one of the economies in order for them to be kind of at the center of trade. This is why they're integrating systems with Tehran. They're talking out things with Russia. They want something that's going to be able to run to Europe through the Middle East, just in case Russia ever cuts them off. This is, okay. South America in general also needs to be nervous due to the fact that Patagonia is likely to establish, and listen, this is from my personal interpretations. I would love if anybody has any alternative theories to this. I do believe that we are heading towards the idea of a Zionist similar state in the land of Patagonia. I think that we are looking at a situation where if we wipe out a lot of the native populations here, and this is kind of the way that America had their old colonization level abilities, where it's like, let's bring diseases that the native population is not used to. Let's bring in Ebola, let's bring in smallpox, whatever, give these people blankets, and then we'll just poison out the native populations, and eventually we will make room for our forefathers who are going to come in here and build Marriott hotels or something like that. Okay. International agencies desperately scramble right now. This Africa strain that we're looking at, the Bundibugyo strain of Ebola. The World Health Organization has already declared a crisis and public health emergency of international concern as suspected cases spiked past 1,000 in just a matter of weeks. The international panic is exceptionally high because, unlike more common variants of the disease, the Bundibugyo strain has no approved vaccines or specialized therapeutic treatments available, meaning global containment relies entirely on immediate isolation, rapid contact tracing, and strict border screenings to stop a wider global explosion. Ugh, very, very sick, very, very sad. Let's go into the Goyslop Media NBC News today.
This morning, the World Health Organization's top doctor is in the Ebola hot zone.
Looking forward to stop this Ebola with the community.
The Director General of the WHO touching down in the Democratic Republic of Congo over the weekend.
The key is to come forward as early as possible.
This outbreak already the third largest in history as the international response ramps up. Doctors on the ground racing to play catch up.
Are you worried this could be worse than 2018, that this could be worse than 2014?
I think it's a bit early to say that yet. We still don't have the complete picture of the epidemic. We still need more testing.
With more than 1,000 suspected cases, no specific treatment, and no approved vaccine, the WHO estimates the fatality rate is between 30 and 50%. The outbreak mostly contained to the DRC, with a small number of cases in neighboring countries. But now, thousands of miles away in Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, Brazil, hospitals now testing 2 patients with Ebola-like symptoms. Meanwhile, a U.S. plan to treat exposed Americans in Kenya instead of flying them to the States triggered immediate backlash there. And among some U.S. experts,
a backlash from the Kenyans. So I don't know. They held signs for a second. They don't have like clean water at most of the time. So these people they're not the best protesters. You know what I mean? But you need good protesters. You need boomers in the 1960s where it's like they're in college if they're not fresh out of high school, all that junk. They're very passionate. They all have very long, that kind of, it's the white girl hair where it's white, it's like very long and then it's got waves near the end and whatnot. They got to be wearing like something with long sleeves that are extra baggy. You need protesters that are going to be like John Lennon-esque where it's not, they're taking the Gandhi route where it's not, the Gandhi route, by the way, is not sleeping with a bunch of young women to test your sexual morality, which is what he did. Gandhi, you can look it up. He talked about it in his later years where he was like, yeah, let me just sleep naked with like my younger students and whatnot, young girls, teenagers and whatnot, and let me see whether or not I can get through the night without doing anything kooky. That's what it was purity tests is what he called them. So the Gandhi technique is not that. It's not that testing your sexual morality with sleeping with children, which is a crime. It's that, by the way, he should have gone to jail, whatever. No one wants to talk about it. They just want to make him this kind of saint-like being. It's fine. You need Gandhi level protesters to where they're gonna maybe starve themselves a little bit. They're gonna be frail. You're gonna be able to see their bones through their faces. You know how you're supposed to see your bones in your hands and whatnot. You're not supposed to be able to see bones like dramatically in your faces. These people, they have a John Lennon, Yoko Ono appearance to them. The men all have long hair. The women have long ratty hair. You need protesters that are going to be a little bit. They have an energy to yell. The Kenyans don't have an energy to yell. These people can barely muster like a grunt.
Too, who say they should be treated at home at the world's leading specialized facilities. A Kenyan high court now blocking the U.S. facility, and senior U.S. administration officials say any infected Americans would instead be treated in Europe. Like American doctors Peter Stafford and Patrick LaRochelle, now speaking to CNN from his biocontainment unit for the first time.
I'm doing great. No symptoms. Tolerating the biobox.
Yeah.
Now, overnight, the WHO also announced that 4 nurses who were treated at a hospital in that hard-hit Ituri province in the DRC have successfully recovered. That brings the total number of confirmed treated survivors so far to 5. That's a little bit of hope from there. Craig?
Indeed. Molly Hunter Forster. Molly, thank you.
Molly, thank you. We really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. Things are going crazy in the world. Whether or not you're concerned, this might be a 2014, 2018 level Ebola outbreak. It's going to be like a thing that we make jokes about. People will be like, oh, I'm going to Africa. Hope I don't get Ebola. They'll get canceled on Twitter for it. Canceling's not as much a thing, but they might lose their job. I don't know. It's not, we're not in those days. You know what I mean? People are still overly sensitive in the day that we still live in, but it's like a smaller sect of individuals. More often than not, they just kind of look at you like you're blaspheming. If you like tell them that, oh, whether or not you vote for the Democrat or the Republican, it's probably going to be an agent of Satan. They look at you like you're just blaspheming. The idea that politics means anything most of the time, it's whatever. It's unfortunate. I want to talk about the rapid fire section of today's headlines. There's a lot of things you need to know about in order to keep your media diet healthy that I feel as though I need to, it's fun stuff. We intermingle serious stories with the more like the fun ones. So let's call the fun ones Graham Platner's sexting controversy. This is rocking his campaign. Graham Platner, he is a man running for Senate in Maine. He's already been known for his Nazi tattoo that he did not know was a Nazi tattoo. You know what I mean? If you just want a Nazi tattoo, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? If you just want a Nazi tattoo, but you're like, I just think it's a cool design. You know what I mean? The Buddhists are able to get away with the Nazi, what's it called? Because they had it a few thousand years before he adopted it, the swastika. But their swastika, it's not to the side. It's like perfectly laying on its square. But whatever. I want to say that symbols have a lot of meaning to a lot of people. I don't know what symbols his sexting had to him, but it clearly meant a lot if he was able to keep it up.
Shaking up a crucial U.S. Senate race. Graham Platner, a Democrat running for Senate in Maine, has been one of the most talked about candidates in the midterms. Now, the Wall Street Journal says his wife warned his campaign last year that he sent explicit text messages to other women during their marriage.
Awesome.
Burns on Capitol Hill. Caitlin.
Okay. Who cares?
Good morning to you, Vlad. Well, Republicans have the majority here in the U.S. Senate, but Democrats have been counting on this.
So he's a baller. Who gives a fuck?
Popular progressive Graham Platner to oust the state's long-term Republican Senator Susan Collins in November. And just a week ahead of his primary, Platner is facing a new controversy that's dividing Democrats in one of the most competitive races in the country.
My name is Graham Platner, and I'm running for U.S. Senate in Maine to defeat Susan Collins.
Marine veteran Graham Platner launched his Maine Senate campaign with this video featuring the oyster farm.
I hate so much that we just attach the name veteran to every single person that has ever served in the military. There are some people that have done real tours. There are people that have like actually done shit and whatnot, but that is what we lead with every time. No matter what they've done in their lives besides that, we just always are like, they're veteran, the person's a veteran and whatnot. It's like, oh, how long were they in the service? Oh, well, 5 years or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, that's not, you know, I guess, cool. You like, what did you do? Did you like kill anybody and whatnot? And they're like, I stood at an airbase and shit like that. I stood and was a regimented person. I was an effective part of the military. I was like, so you didn't do anything though. Like you didn't kill for the country. And I'm not saying that killing for the country is always a good thing. I'm just saying that like veteran used to like mean something. Like it used to mean that we were like fighting a war. I mean, you gave a lot and whatnot. Nowadays, we just call anybody a veteran. I'm just going to be honest with you. Calling people a veteran when it's like, oh, you were a communications officer, whatever. Okay. You're JD Vance or you're Tim Waltz, where you're these people that are like, no one is a fucking military hero this is a fucking lie. The idea that, JD Vance is this hero who went out. He was doing on the ground reporting. Tim Waltz was this fucking loser who got out just before he was about to get deployed because he was a fake fucking fighter. He's just a phony piece of shit loser, just like everybody who loves to attach veteran. I'm a veteran. I do all this shit. But if they're running for office, I'm instantly suspicious. I'm like, what did you even do? You weren't out there killing Koreans.
On the back of his boat.
I'm not pretending to have all the answers.
And walking with his wife, Amy Gertner. But now the pair are responding to sexually explicit text messages. Platner's campaign acknowledged he sent several women earlier in their marriage.
Why?
In a statement, Platner said, Amy and I went through something hard because of me. In her own statement, Gertner said, I confided deeply personal details about my marriage to someone I considered a friend. And she defended her husband.
Graham and I have a great marriage.
Good for you. That's great.
Being married is hard.
Yeah, it is.
Fellow Democrats say Platner needs to explain himself.
I have concerns. The guy has questions to answer, and that's what campaign...
Cory Booker, you're no one to be demanding anything from anybody. Excuse you? Cory Big Eyes Booker. Cory, let me vote for arms sales to Israel Booker. Cory, I admitted to groping young women in high school Booker. Cory, you need to shut your goddamn mouth. I don't want to hear... Everybody, by the way, who claims that this guy's the next Obama, shut the fuck up. He doesn't have the aura for it.
Platner already had been forced to answer questions about now-deleted Reddit posts in which he called himself a communist and asked, why don't black people tip?
Oh, good points. God damn it.
Janet Mills showed Platner's chest tattoo, which he has covered up, that's widely recognized as a Nazi symbol, and called out another past post.
The guy's a Nazi. The guy is a Nazi communist. What more could we want, ladies and gentlemen? We want a communist. We got AOC. We want a Nazi. We have Graham Platner, ladies and gentlemen. I'm saying that you need the full palette of human emotions and reality to paint a really nice picture.
Quote, act like an adult.
But even Platner's explanation led to another apology.
I am sorry. I am not a perfect person, and I continue to try to be better.
Even after those past controversial statements, Platner continued to lead in the polls. His primary opponent, the Democratic governor of Maine, Janet Mills, suspended her campaign, but her name will remain on the ballot in next week's Democratic primary. Gail.
Graham did nothing wrong. Graham did nothing. Even according to his wife, she's like, we have problems. Every marriage has problems. You know, when your husband just like sends sexually explicit messages to other women, that just happens. It's not easy to get married. It's not easy. You know what I mean? Because men, they see it as like a symbol of their dying. They see it as like, oh, if I'm with this woman, if I call it good if I like, I can never sleep with another woman again. It's kind of like if you have to see it from the man's perspective, they see my wife as kids, as like, I'm getting old as like, I'm going to retire. My time is over. They see the idea of like settling down as like a reflection on their own mortality. Men being the creatures that they are, they don't love coming up to par with that. It's a toxic masculinity thing. Toxic masculinity is just as real as toxic femininity. There's a lot of bitches out there, and there's a lot of dicks out there. You have to be honest about the full spectrum of humanity, in all honesty. You want to talk about toxic humanity? Toxic anti-humanity, actually. We are all familiar with smart glasses. We're all familiar with wearable technology, all that. Now they're going a step further. Smart contact lenses with smart chips, laying right there on your cornea. How do you feel about that? Let's take a look at this new technology that for sure is going to be mandatory if you work in certain tech sectors in a few years, because they need to see how productive you are. They need to know that they're hiring a person who's not going to be a slacker who like daydreams every now and then.
I just tried a smart contact lens and it was kind of terrifying. They're basically the same as smart glasses, except they sit on top of your eyeball.
Think of it as the ability to use all your typical apps and content directly on the cornea.
That's stupid.
Operated by eyes, by voice, by gesture, probably later by mind.
One of the companies developing a prototype of this is
Probably later by mind. And the company that's doing this is Xpan CEO. It's XPAN CEO.
They say a version of this could be ready to buy as soon as 2030. They let me try it out. Now, because it's not medically approved yet, I couldn't actually put it in my eye. So I tried it like this. What I saw was pretty dystopian. Imagine directions floating in front of you while you're driving, a calorie count appearing when you buy your morning coffee, or paying for something just with an eye scan. But what about safety?
The lens itself, it operates at the level of microwatts. The amount of this electromagnetic field, which can potentially somehow influence your brain, your body, is comparable to, I think, to those eye bags that you are wearing here.
Earbuds.
The goal is to launch an integrated version with biosensors for monitoring health data and augmented reality ready for medical trials by the end of this year.
They want you to fully integrate. They want the Neuralink in your head that's going to be able to read your thoughts. They want to monitor thoughts. They want consciousness to die. They want you to be feeding into the AI system that will ultimately be able to do anything that you think. It will be able to create a digital map of your brain. Your personality will be removed. We'll be able to make people. We'll be literally able to make people by the end of a few years from now. We'll be able to download people's consciousnesses. Not that their consciousness will leave their body. We'll be able to be like, oh, we're going to create a digital version of you. It's basically like a Siri that is you, but your consciousness doesn't go anywhere. The brain, we still have not figured out a way to contain consciousness, to transport it, to transmute it. We're not at RoboCop yet. I guess not RoboCop even, because in RoboCop, he was still human, but he was like just heavily bionically engineered because he was in the accident and like there was barely any part of him that was able to like survive. It was mostly just his head and whatnot. But like that is the layer that these tech lords will be able to strip from you. They'll be able to go like, oh, you want control over your body? You want a spinal column that connects to legs that operate, that are able to transport you. You want arms that are able to crack nuts, just like the ones that Mother Nature gave you. You know what I mean? Thousands of years ago. That will cost you, I don't know, a couple $100 every now and then. And if you refuse to pay our subscription, we're not going to continue to send electric signals to your legs. They're going to be able to trap people in forever chests, essentially. If they are able to keep the brain alive with these in systems integrations, if they're able to do these stem cell therapies in order to make sure that consciousness never dies, we will see the layer at which people we'll see the first person maybe live forever. Unfortunately, eventually, but they're going to be leaving their body. They're going to be abandoning the human vessel that they've always known. They are going to be operating via a system of electromagnetic signals that are being fed into this brain that sits in a petri dish that will be the person's consciousness, but they'll get their eye perception from the cameras that send electric signals that transmit it into their neuroprocessors. This is a terrifying future, but it is the future that's coming, ladies and gents.
How much will this all cost? Well, the company is hoping to market the lenses at around $2,000 a year. Would you wear one?
Wait a minute, a year, $2,000 a year, meaning if you buy it, it's not like a phone where maybe you pay $45 for like your service, you pay a bunch of money like every month in order to make sure that you can still connect to the internet. It's $2,000 in order for this device to continue to function. Whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be the retards who help issue in the age of transcending the human form, go for it. You're with Joe Rogan and all the weird, like, clavicular, Peter Thiel funded weird sources of information. I can't deal with you. Can't deal with the people who are inherently anti-human. All right. Speaking of humans, I want to talk about a story that is deeply human. An Atlanta police deputy chief, Kelly Collier. I get weirded out when I hear a man named Kelly because I'm like, oh, it can be a boy name, could be a girl name, but I guess that's just I don't like Kellys. They don't work for me. All right. Kelly Collier was engaged in a 2-year extramarital affair with U.S. District Judge Eleanor Ross. The relationship included loud sexual encounters in the judge's chambers during business hours that were overheard by the court staff. Judge Ross received a private reprimand from the Judicial Conduct Committee for the affair, attending a political event and making false statements during the investigation. Atlanta PD has launched an internal probe into, obviously, Chief Kelly Collier. The reason I wanted to cover this, actually, is just because I have footage of their sexual encounter. Let me roll this clip. Oh my God. She is getting dicked down hard, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even know. We're going to roll that clip again for you one more time, just because she sounds like an opera singer. This is incredible. I've never understood women who are loud during sex. That never made any sense to me, even a little bit. I understand you're in an area that might be activating your neurons, your monkey brain a little bit. I've never heard someone go full chimpanzee during sex. This is insane. That's amazing. He's right where he needs to be, ladies and gentlemen. This is terrible. This is terrifying, but you know what? Good for them for finding love in the places where it matters. All right. Canada, by the way, their medically assisted dying program and whatnot is getting huge. I don't know if you've been hearing about medically assisted death in general. The MAID program, I would love to see an end to it, except for certain. I'm a piece of shit where I'm like, oh yeah, I understand that abortion is murder at a certain point. I'm just okay with some instances of murder. I understand that is unfortunate. It's a layer of reality that I've had to admit that I'm comfortable with. But if it's like an instance of rape, I understand where people are like, I don't want to carry some rapist's baby, and I don't feel like birthing it. I don't feel like doing that personally. Cases of incest where it's like the father sexually abused the child, sure. I'm not into the idea of forcing that child to carry it to term. However, I am against abortion to a certain extent. Like when we're dealing with late terms where this is a child that is maybe you don't love that it's going to come out with a Down syndrome situation, whether they've been dealing with this all the time in Iceland. If you just want to, by the way, research it, you can figure it out yourself. They have a 0% Down syndrome rate in Iceland. Do you know why? They just killed everybody. They just killed everybody who was going to be Down syndrome. They killed them. They murdered them. And now by the way, this growing controversy around the Canada, specifically the medically assisted dying program, the mental health detentions. This is a fear that's growing in Canada. If you don't know, there's like public reactions and whatnot. These people are getting pulled over by people who will take you into custody now if they believe that you are mentally ill. I am not mentally ill. I've never been mentally ill. I just am intensive on my research. And when you speak the truth, you do sound crazy to many people, regrettably. When you talk about stem cell therapy, when you talk about fetal tissue, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to put me on a leave, if they tried to put me on like an extended hold. But guess what they would do to you there? They're going to label you as like an unsavable. They're going to label you as like mentally a defect. And it's going to be like that episode of The Simpsons where they're like, get the homeless people in the bar, and then they turn the homeless people into food. That is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to harvest the organs. They're going to kill people who are telling the truth. All right, whatever. I hope that I don't see my government begin killing people with medically assisted suicide, because I would likely be one of those people that they take into a sanatorium and you'll never hear from me again. All right. Speaking of reality, the reality is the alien bullshit that the United States government was trying to do was all a prank. It was a setup to this fucking stupid aliens.gov classified website. I'm not even going to bother to explain it. I'm too angry. CNN, the Goy Slop King, can tell you itself.
Launched aliens.gov, which at first glance appears to be about extraterrestrials, until you scroll to the bottom and find an interactive alien arrest map that appears to be based on immigration and customs enforcement data and refer to migrants.
God damn
The
it.
White House promoted the website launch on X with the UFO animation, but also with the photo of people with their hands tied behind their backs. The website begins by stating they walk among us, claiming the U.S. government has kept this, quote, secret closed for 60 years, and claiming that President Donald Trump is the first leader to call the, quote, real danger aliens pose, until it finally reveals this website is not about little green men, but part of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown and mass deportation effort, complete with an ICE tip line button. The site is yet another symbol of the Trump administration's heavy-handed effort to crack down on both legal and illegal forms of immigration, with policies that have prompted widespread fear and confusion among migrants. The website's launch also comes weeks into the Pentagon's release of declassified files regarding unidentified anomalous phenomena, a term for UFOs. Social media users had a mixed reaction to the website's release, with some calling it a bait and switch. The government is trolling UFO people. Other social media users thought the effort was funny. Smooth, who is the genius behind this? Give this person a bonus and double the salary. The White House...
It's not funny, regrettably. I mean, I wish that there was an element to where we could be excited for this. I wish that, because it's great. I agree with the idea that illegal immigrants gotta go. I agree with the idea that every person who comes into this country should be vetted just as hard as anybody else. They should be questioned. They should know certain facts about the United States. I'm gonna be honest with you. You can't just be onboarding people like France does, where you crash on the shoreline and then they let you in. I want the United States to be a protected and strong nation where every person who is coming here comes here the way that my family did. They are subject to the most of scrutiny. If you're a little brown, we are going to subject, you better be able to recite the national anthem. If not, you're spending the night in David, Panama. You're not coming home, ladies and gentlemen. I want that to be the level of scrutiny that every individual faces. Otherwise, what are we even doing? What is a nation state if you cannot protect your nation's peoples? All right, let's cover our final headline before we jump into the I want to talk about the Knights of Malta. It'll be a little history reduction for all of you. You'll be able to enjoy it. Let's look at this clip, though, about when Jeffrey Epstein needed medical assistance for himself or a friend. He often received VIP treatment at Mount Sinai Health Systems in New York. If you didn't know about Mount Sinai, it's one of the country's most prestigious hospital systems. According to the Justice Department's Epstein files, he was just able to waltz in whenever he'd like, very interestingly enough.
When Jeffrey Epstein needed medical treatment for himself or a friend, the Justice Department's Epstein files show that he often got VIP treatment from one of the most prestigious hospitals in the country, Mount Sinai in New York City. In 2012, Epstein emailed his ex-girlfriend, Eva Anderson Dubin, about somebody getting into an ATV accident and needing stitches and an x-ray. Anderson Dubin, who founded the Dubin Breast Center at Mount Sinai Hospital, wrote back to Epstein, "Okay, Jess Ting is standing by. Call me as soon as you land."
Jess Ting.
Ting, who is still a plastic surgeon at Mount Sinai, is also seen in this photo from the Epstein files, standing over a patient who is lying on a table inside of Epstein's home. Their face is not visible, and like most photos in the files, we do not know when it was taken or any other context. When Epstein needed MRI scans, Ting wrote to his colleagues, "This patient is a VIP and we need to make this happen." Much of the VIP treatment that Epstein received from the hospital was facilitated by his ex-girlfriend, Anderson Dubin. She and her husband, hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin, donated to and founded the Dubin Breast Center at Mount Sinai. Once in 2013, when Epstein went to Mount Sinai's emergency room in the middle of the night and couldn't reach his doctors, Anderson Dubin asked her colleague, anyone he should call besides his doctors? Her colleague told Anderson Dubin that Epstein should call a number that's covered 24/7 by a member of my team. All he has to say is he's a friend of yours and everyone is great. The special treatment also extended to Epstein's friend. When an assistant for Epstein emailed Ting about checking out Epstein's friend's nose, Ting wrote back, "For Mr. Epstein, anything is possible." That same year, Epstein's girlfriend was applying for a dental residency at Mount Sinai and found out she wasn't selected for an interview.
Well,
When
yikes.
Epstein forwarded the rejection email to Robin Solomon, who was then the head of trustee services for the hospital, Solomon wrote back, "I'm going to call my contact tomorrow and get her interviewed." It's not clear if she was ever interviewed. The hospital has reportedly formed a committee to investigate its ties to Epstein.
The hospital, Mount Sinai, has formulated a committee. Who's sitting on the committee? People that probably work there and don't want their connections to be revealed. It's perfectly... I love internal reviews. Internal reviews are one of my favorites. The moment you hear about them, you should assume that the investigation itself is just bull honky.
A Mount Sinai spokesperson told CNN in a statement, Epstein's actions are horrific, reprehensible, and stand in direct opposition to what Mount Sinai believes in and stands for as an institution and as medical professionals. Our patients...
Medical professionals are, like, half the time not a real thing. These are people that, like, you understand. By the way, if this makes you angry, you're a part of the priesthood. You don't even realize it, that you worship the medical industry, that you worship Western medicine. That is your religion. You have formulated your identity around defending these little men in coats that, like, look at books that you've never read, that develop formulated medicines that you'll never read the labels of. You need to get in the mindset of, like, okay, maybe there is the idea of people who, oh, you're an expert in your field, you're an expert in this, you're an expert in that. You're not able. The experts do disagree. That is a fact, and it's something that many people, they don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the fact that information is tough. It's unfortunate. You never are able, or really, to know if what they're telling you is the best thing for your health. It's unfortunate. It's a reality we all have to live with and get with, that there is such a thing as a second opinion. They always tell you to get a second opinion. It's the self-sealing, by the way that the medical industry keeps you within its wraps. It's like, oh, go ask another one of our priests. Go ask another one of them. They don't even realize it's a religion. They don't even realize they're defending a religion.
Patients will always be treated with the highest level of care and respect. We do not comment on the clinical care provided to individual patients. Lucia Lee, Vice President of Public Affairs for Mount Sinai, did not respond to numerous questions from CNN for this story. And Eva Anderson Dubin, Robin Solomon, and Jess Ting did not respond to requests for comment.
Well, very fun, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very fun indeed. I think I want to wrap it up. You know what I mean? I want to call it good. This has been an awesome episode. I'm going to give you the final story, and that'll be it. The Knights of Malta. Who are they? What do they want, and who gives them orders? For key references in this, I will be largely drawing from the book Behold a Pale Horse by Milton William Cooper. The birth in Jerusalem circa 1048. Amalfi merchants established a hospice and hospital in Jerusalem to care for the exhausted, sick Christian pilgrims. They were called the Hospitaliers, and they were originally modeled to be like the previous order of the Knights Templar. In 1099, Godfrey de Bouillon gave them their first endowment, and in the new feudal state of Jerusalem. This began a trend among nobles, kings, lords, all of that, to make the order of these knights very, very rich. Under the leadership of Blessed Fra Gerard, the staff formed the distinct lay religious order. In 1113, Pope Paschal II officially recognized them as an exempt order of the church, answering only to the Pope, an oath of complete obedience to work towards a new world order for the Pope. The Pope, by the way, is a figurehead for the Black Pope, a superior general to the Jesuits of the... I'm just going to be honest with you. Let's talk about their military in exile in 1191 to 1309. The Holy Land was growing increasingly unstable. The Hospitaliers, they took up arms to protect their patients, transforming into an elite military force similar in vein to the ones that were still active, the Knights Templar. The Crusader states fell in about 1291. The order was forced to flee to the mainland, temporarily relocating their headquarters to Cyprus. In 1309, seeking a permanent base. The order conquered the island of Rhodes. That held to until about 1522. And during the 1307 suppression of the Knights Templar, the dissolution, really, that ended right about 1312, the Hospitaliers were key in their suppression. They were actually dismantling the order that they had been based on originally. During the 1307 suppression of them, eventually culminating in the 1312 Pope Clement V's papal bull Ad Providam, issued on May 2nd, by the way. It legally granted the rights of seized Templar property to the Knights of St. John. Those fleeing the Templar found refuge, often in the exact organization that was key to their downfall, the Hospitaliers. They established over time a strong Swiss presence after Kuno von Buschke donated assets to the Bern-Mittelland region in 1180. By 1192, Bubakan was their chief commandery, and it created a safe haven for the suppressed Knights of Templar to come to. Together, these mercenaries, the Hospitaliers, the Knights Templar, they pooled their money, assets, strength together to establish the unmatched and, quite frankly, unbelievably good at what they do Swiss banking system. Now, it is the center of global banking and wealth. Even to this day, the Knights adopted, if you don't know, the white cross over a red background, still used as the flag of Switzerland in order to represent, quote, peace on a blood-red field of war. See how the jokes about the Swiss about always being neutral, even to Hitler, now makes sense. Hitler, by the way, funded by the Jews in order to assist them in the mass ritual killing of Jews, to grant them the nation-state of Israel. Hitler was a plant just as much as Lee Harvey Oswald was. Does this mean that they were great men who were taken advantage of? Absolutely not, obviously. But the large organizing systems around us know who will be the right minds to serve their vision. A man who will stoke national anti-Semitism in order to create the exact problem that the Jews always needed. The oppressor in Europe who forces them into the path they benefit from the most with territory they're not native to, promised to them and planned for them. Guys, Zionism created Hitler, 1000% anyways. They build a powerful naval fleet to protect the Mediterranean and construct advanced fortifications. They built vessels and whatnot all over the Mediterranean during this time. They ruled as the independent state until about 1522. Then the Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent ousted them after a brutal 6-month siege. 1530 to about 1798, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V finally granted the Knights the Maltese archipelago of perpetual fiefdom. A perpetual fiefdom. The fiefdom essentially it's a land controlled by a feudal lord. They were given one by Charles V. The vocab word of the day: fiefdom. It's a land controlled by a feudal lord. The annual rent, though, it was a single Maltese falcon. It was sent to the Viceroy of Sicily, and it is here in 1565 that the Knights cemented their legendary status. They successfully repelled a massive Ottoman invasion during the Great Siege of Malta. And then in general, they were dispersed around. They were moved to Rome, 1798 to 1834. Napoleon Bonaparte, he captured Malta without a fight while en route to Egypt, forcing the Knights into exile once more. They were left homeless, and then the order eventually permanently relocated its government headquarters in Rome in 1834. They were claiming to pivot away from military operations back to its purely original humanitarian roots. However, I don't believe that knights ever are done being knights. I don't believe that people who service the battlefield of war are ever more suited to anything but battle and war, ladies and gentlemen. Who knows? But if you want to look into them yourselves, I've just given you quite a bit of information. Folks, I hope you had a wonderful time listening to these stories and this collection of information. I had a wonderful time putting it together for you. Gui, Miss Cat, do you have anything to add to this? No? You're just going to sit there looking all pretty? Okay. Folks, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I know, she's normally so loud, she's normally all angry and shit. It's because I have the AC on. She doesn't feel like meowing and interrupting me. But in the meantime, folks, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to be here for tomorrow's, we're going to be running all through the week, covering the stories that happen to drop and be important. And in the meantime, I have been Ollie Vogt Larson with Your Brain on Air. If you want to be here for those episodes, subscribe if you want more. Like if you liked it, ring the bell for notifications. I've been Ollie Vogt Larson, though, with Your Brain on Air. Thank you so very much for listening. I will catch you in tomorrow's episode. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.